Hello, Noah, and first of all, thank you for accepting my invitation.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you so much for having me here.
I wanted to cover with you a subject which is kind of touchy these days because we all work from home during this past year, which has proven to be quite challenging for a lot of people. And looking forward, I believe that 2021 will probably resemble very much with the one we just finished. And I wanted to touch base with you and discover a hot topic. A lot of companies are having a tough time during this pandemic with, let's say, sensitive subject, which is business development and sales and acquiring new customers. Before we go into further details, I would like to ask you to tell us a few words about yourself and how you come to work in such a high stress environment as it's called for business development and sales, and why maybe you chose this profession in particular.
Okay, perfect. Well, overall, I have experience in sales for the past 23 years. It's actually a bit funny because I started when I lived in New York for 3 years, and I've been studying there acting in front of camera. And I needed to provide myself and pay for the studies. So I started doing sales. It seems like the most intuitive thing. Nowadays, I can tell you that the acting really, really helped me in my career, being able to stand on stage and speak in English. I think that what gave me the confidence at the end. So you never know what is the plan for you on that case. So yeah, it's been 23 years in sales. And then in the past 14 years, I've been concentrating on cyber security and information security. Again, doing sales. I had a wonderful opportunity while I was working in DHL in Israel. The CEO of Symantec in Israel offered me a job. Actually, I didn't take that job back then because he didn't offer me a car, and I wanted a job with a car. That was my conditions. But then I moved to another company of his friends, and this is how it actually came to the point that I'm in the cyber business. And I've been in 3 different startups. I've experienced a few acquisitions being in those startups. So I was lucky enough to also experience being acquired by an American corporate, being a part of Cisco Systems and other companies. And in the past 2 years, I've been consulting to different startups, not necessarily only in the cyber business, but also in infrastructure and also the medical devices vertical, I might say.
So I know you have a strong background in enterprise sales, and I wanted to get your opinion whether you think it's important or not for a founder of a company to be skilled at sales, or is that something which he can acquire or hire?
Yeah, that's a good question, because normally when you start your own company, you need to have some business orientation. So sometimes a lot of technical people, because they're the one behind the idea, starting a company, I would recommend to always find another founder with you that is experienced in sales. We can say a lot of things about sales. It's a bit of a crazy roller coaster. You know, there are ups and downs more than anything else in life, I might say, and uncertainty, especially. But you learn a lot. You have to be a people person, and you learn how to negotiate, and you learn how to push forward. So yeah, if I'll make it a bit of a short answer, I think the experience in sales could really, really help. And it could be a founder that could come from a technical position, and I've saw that as well in the past years, and also go into the business side. But then I would probably recommend to do it with other people with experience, just to save time and not to experience challenges and waste time and money.
So looking at your younger self, because you've said that you've done this for quite a while now, almost 20 something years, would you do something different if you would be able to teach yourself, you just starting out in sales? Would you choose something that you learned along the way and could speed up your experience maybe, or shorten your learning curve in sales?
That's the question, right? About life. What would we do different? And normally I think people say I wouldn't do anything different because I am who I am because of what I've experienced, right? But if I'll be honest, and I think if I would consult to myself back then when I was younger, I think the opportunity to start from a vendor back then when the CEO of Symantec in Israel offered me a job and I said no just because it didn't offer me a car. I wasn't in the business at all. I think I didn't even know how to open a computer, if I'll exaggerate on that side. And I think nowadays I know that being in a vendor and from the vendor side is very good, and you learn a lot. What I did is I started from the beginning. I went to a consulting company, a global consulting firm, and then I went to integration, so studied everything from the basic, and then I moved to startups, which are not big vendors, but the roller coaster of a startup is another thing. And I think basically, so I will be maybe like everyone else saying, I think that's what made me who I am today and give me all the knowledge and the ability to help other people and experience the challenges I've had and save them time and money where I failed. Okay. And yeah, but if it was my daughter, let's say, I would probably tell her, if you have an opportunity to go to a big vendor from the beginning, walk to the job, don't care about the car, it will probably make my way shorter.
So I know you work for a lot of startups which are building or are related in some ways to software, and software seems to be quite big these days in terms of companies being founded. And most of those companies sell what we call internationally. So they don't sell necessarily to their own countries, to people speaking maybe the same language, but they hope in general to attract customers which are located overseas. Would you say it's important from your perspective to be native in those companies, in those countries, to be able to sell such services, to speak English as a native, or it can be done by somebody who speaks English maybe as a second language?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is a strategy, right, to sell, first of all, and there is a strategy to go and sell in other countries. First, of course, you need to know exactly what it is that you're selling. What makes you different than your competitors? To understand your target audience and your target customer. And then you also build a strategy for the company. Depends if you're before seed or round A or what you're looking for. There are different aspects for what you need to have. Not necessarily you need to have 20 international logos in your own country. Maybe going out and earning a few companies in the States or in the UK, for example, would help target the investors that you're looking for. So again, it's kind of, you need to know your product, how you differentiate yourself, what your targeted markets, what the targeted customers, and also the goals of the company. Okay, so we're looking at the big picture in high level on all those aspects before we decide to go somewhere. But let's say we've done all that and we said, okay, we want to move and expand ourselves to Europe, right? To more countries, either in Eastern Europe or in the center of Europe. And there are different strategies there as well, and it depends on the stage of the company. Okay, if you sold a lot of direct customers already and you're now ready to go on a channel move, and you can choose channels to work with, then you targeted the different channels. And in countries that don't speak English, there are different strategies. Sometimes you'll use a local distributor that would translate all the materials, that will learn your product and be your first focal point in this country because it's necessary. In other countries where English is a strong language and most of the people are speaking that, that could be also a possibility to either sell direct or go directly with resellers that sell to the end customer and cut the distributor that is being there in the middle. So there are different strategies on that. But certainly I would say do a preparation work and a specific strategy to expand yourself abroad.
When you're working with some founders, be it younger or be it older persons, and they approach you to try to help them in their sales efforts, what do you look for when selecting a potential candidate or a potential employer, if I may say so? Either that sometimes it could be just a collaboration, not necessarily a full-time employee. What do you look for in those founders, in those products, to kind of decide whether that business proposal is a sound one, or maybe it's just some wishful thinking on their behalf?
Yeah. So again, it's yeah, it's a really good question, and I can divide it to two. Of course, there is the profession side. If you're looking for someone more technical to be also sales oriented, because the product is a bit more complicated and you need a deep understanding, definitely you need to find that person. But personality wise, I would look for people that you want to connect with, because salespeople would be your face of the company, your ears, your eyes, and the face that would represent you. And you want people that are likable. You want people that you can trust. You want people that can be your customers' friends and your partners' friends. So this is the first thing, of course. And you also want to add people that would be a part of the family, especially when we're talking about startups. Each one of the personalities is important, and the vibe to actually drill everyone to the same motivation is extremely important. And that aspect, I would look for a great personality, right? Someone you can fall in love with and you want to connect with. And on the professional side, it really depends on the budget, and it depends on different decisions. If you are looking for a hunter, if you're looking for a farmer, what's the stage of the company in a matter of sales? Do you have customers that you need to actually keep, grow? Or you're looking for a hunter that would be hungry and that would not be ashamed to look for customers all over. So definitely I would look for those, yeah, I think those main two aspects.
Is it still relevant in 2021 for that person to be located or near the technical team, maybe in the same office, in the same physical space?
That's yeah, another good question. I've been working from home for 10 years. So the pandemic didn't change a lot for me. I've been traveling a lot and I've been working, and normally, because Israel is a startup nation, most of the R&D team and the technical team would be here. So I was lucky enough to do visit the office and meet those people. But I think nowadays, certainly with the Zoom opportunity and the video conference calls, it's more easy not to necessarily have that person near the team. Of course, it's always important, to be close to people. At least I would suggest to meet them. If not once a month, then once a quarter, just to keep them a part of the company, a part of the spirit, a part of the friendships that you have in each company. But nowadays, definitely for work, I don't think it's a must.
Okay. So given the opportunity that you're a founder and you have to decide when hiring between two people, two very senior salespeople, one, let's say you are an Israeli startup and you have the opportunity to hire someone which is senior and also based in Israel and speaks the language. And the other person would be a person which speaks some foreign language, but it's closer to the customer. Which do you think would perform better? The person which is closer to the customer and speak the customer's language? By that, I mean, be it English or Dutch or German, whatsoever, or the person which speaks the technical team's language? Would you think would perform better in terms of sales results?
It really depends again on the company goals, right? Of course, speaking the same language is really, really important and connects you better with the customer. But also having the ability to have someone close to the management and close to the people, even though you have the Zoom, sometimes it would be better because then you can do things together, you can think together, work together, and the physical aspect is important. So yeah, it would be probably a part of each of what we said before, a bit of a personality, a bit of an experience, and a bit of the language part. But maybe I would probably tell you to hire both.
and try to put them to work together, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or build it in a certain way that it would make sense, but to cover all things that you need in the company. But yeah, language is important, but it's not the most important thing. It's
I
not.
know that I know you recently attended a live event, which are still happening, by the way, in Dubai at GITEX. So based on that experience, and also considering that in the past, I'm imagining you've attended thousands of events. Would you say that going forward, if you would have to choose between, I don't know, doing digital sales, going digital, or I don't know, choosing an event strategy, would you think which one of the two would perform better in the coming 1 or 2 years, given the outlook we may have right now on the pandemic?
Right. So yeah, surprisingly, there was an event. I was kind of curious to know how it would go. And again, surprisingly, there were a lot of people. I think there were over 100,000 people over there. It was brilliant event. I came back with no voice because you have the mask on and you need to talk to people all day and
Slightly
you
louder.
get with leaps. So you're screaming more. A lot of people in the same place. Yeah, so that was challenging, but that was extremely interesting. I think the specific event went very, very well. But for your question, I like events. I think they're good. They're connecting between people. So even if you're doing sales on the phone and if you're doing it on video conference, that's great. You can build relationships this way. But there is a huge relevancy for meeting. It could be a drink event in the afternoon for a few hours. It could be a round table. So not necessarily huge events that are important. And again, it would be a part of the strategy. Maybe I would recommend to go to 1 or 2 events, big ones in a year, that belongs to the same category that the startups work for. And I would also suggest to do small events, either for direct customers or with the same partner that you're working with, depending on the phase that the company is at, and do smaller events because they don't cost a lot. You can have and gather at least 12, 15, 20 people in a room, different customers, and you can have a better added value and personalize the conversation and the need for each one.
So if you have the opportunity to work with someone, and I'm imagining you've been in these shoes for a number of times, you try to hire somebody to represent your company's sales efforts. What would be reasonable from your perspective to kind of expect from that person within, I mean, in terms of time frame for delivering some results, and maybe some estimation on actual results, what a result is, because sometimes it could be just conversations and not a finalized signed deal. What do you promise when somebody tries to hire you in terms of what you would be able to deliver?
Right. You have different products and different life cycle for each sales cycle for each product. Some of them are short term, some of them are long terms. Okay, but you mentioned something really, really important, especially when we're talking about startups and young CEOs or founders. They're all the dreamers, and it's important to be a dreamer. But sometimes setting the right goals is really what can either motivate or ruin your salesperson. So that part is extremely important as well. Probably I would always, of course, we look at end numbers, right? This is what we buy our food with, and this is what's important. But the way is also important. Building a pipe, doing the right things. So probably in the first 30 days, I would say learn the product, right? The first 30 days, the first quarter, learn the product, but start also building the pipe. If you're coming with experience and you have your own connections, bring them to the table. Start doing the relationships, start connecting, start learning from each one of the focal points in the company that is necessary for you to learn the business. And then probably, and again, depends on the life cycle, but probably in each company, you can start doing sales after 3 months. Between 3 months to 6 months, you can start doing a few small sales and bring a few wins that would give you probably the power to continue, right? But again, building the correct pipe. And building the correct pipe is not necessarily to be a huge one, but be an accurate one. Know when to say no to an RFP and not just join it because it's a big logo and then you waste technical people's time and everyone sometimes half a year to answer it. And this is also part of the way. So I would see on that person probably if how their processes look like and how they're choosing to spend their time as well. So again, building an accurate pipe is more important to me sometimes than actual results. But I think it's a must. Results would come if you do the correct way.
So it's equally important to know which battles to play for the win and which battles to lose, not to lose basically your time.
For sure, for sure. And not necessarily take something because it's impressive or, sometimes marketing wise, you have to do that. You say we're a part of this RFP or that RFP, but seriously understanding the value also of the technical people and how much time it takes them to answer an RFP. Okay, take it for example, because it's an important project and normally occupies a lot of focal points in the company. And saying no, you need to have experience in order to be brave enough to say that. Saying no to a big bank in order not to waste your time and go on a few other small customers, that could be also a strategy for sale. And I've seen great salespeople succeed with a lot of small deals, doing millions by adding those small on top of small ones, and other ones that would wait 9 months and a year, but would close the 500,000, 200,000 and more deals, but it would have 4 a year. You need to have different type of personalities and patient in order to be either one of those. But I've seen both works.
So if somebody wants to hire you as an expert, but unfortunately they cannot yet afford their services, I mean, your services at this moment in time, and they come to you and say, Noah, we want to work with you, but we cannot afford your services. So could you help us hire somebody which is a little bit more junior and kind of guide that person along the way? What would you look for when consulting them about which person would be the right hire for them at that moment in time?
So if it's a company that's just beginning and normally after the step of the founders that are probably doing the first few sales, right? And it really depends. If they have a focal point that is doing the sales and they already achieved a few logos, then they can have a junior person to do more of an SDR, grow the pipe, reach out to different people after they build the strategy, or they take an experienced consultant that build a strategy of sales for them and guide a more of a non-experienced person or someone that's just beginning their road. But again, I would consider those aspects we spoke before: personality, motivation, wanting to succeed, normally, and sometimes how fast you can study. Not necessarily being experienced is important, but it's important to know that someone is guiding you, either one of the founders or someone you take from the outside to do it together in order not to waste time and money.
So on that subject of time and money, do you think it's worthwhile to be persistent in sales? Do you pursue your customers if they don't reply from the first attempt? Is there value in that, wasting more time for somebody who didn't quite get it from the first reach out?
Yeah, so I think the part of maybe, and this is one aspect that is also very important, having emotional intelligence for salespeople is extremely important, because there is a thick line between being annoying or being persistent, right? And understanding when it's the right time to either have another call or another email if they didn't reply, or how to do it. And there are also strategies for that. Normally you're doing a demo with a customer, and then the same day or the day after, you're sending an email, and thank you for your time and for seeing our demo, and then you're having the points that you agreed on the call. And if they don't reply, normally I would say after a few days, do another follow-up, pick up the phone or do another follow-up on email. But then if they don't reply on the second time, normally I would say leave it aside. If it's a very important customer, you need to think of more of the unique ways to reach out. It could be an event that you're arranging and you're inviting them for drinks, or you're inviting them for some event that would bring them the knowledge that they would like, okay? As more as you would know them, and you would also know them personally, you would ask questions before the demo starts. You would get closer to them. You would know what they care about. It would be easier for you to pull them back, and not necessarily with the normal follow-up of an email or a phone. It could be also just a hi or happy birthday or happy holiday without having any questions that related to work later on. And again, this is why it's important to have people that are people's people in sales, because then you do it naturally. Then you really connect to the person. And then when you connect, you also help the sales, because you can, in a startup, a lot of times sell a roadmap, but it's all about people at the end.
It's been a real pleasure to have you here with us, Noa, and I would like to thank you for presenting us with this opportunity and let us pick your brains on these matters. And I really hope you have a productive year moving ahead in 2021, and hopefully it may happen in the future that I would love to have you also here on the show again and talk with you on these matters.
It would be a pleasure. Thank you so much, Adrian. It was great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye.